I give my views with a liberal message from such a progressive blogger like me, actually. Well, today I want to discuss the state of human rights in Russia. As Russian President Vladimir Putin, he made a false statement that there was no government censorship in Russia, but there is one. There is so-called Goskomnadzor, or Government Oversight Committee. This is a government censorship that actually tracks down and follows any journalist article or blogs, video blog or internet blog that actually might be critical of authorities, critical of Russian government, and actually reports it to the first dean. That actually former KGB or Russian state security agency, the security agency, yeah, which actually managed to even arrest those video bloggers whose articles were deemed extremist. If, let's say, video blogger articles deemed extremist, then FSB, the Russian state security agency, will go out with blogger and will arrest them with blogger. But this is a violation of human rights of freedom of speech. Is violated by the Russian government censorship. And then I believe that Russian President Vladimir Putin was actually a liar when he said that there was no government censorship in Russia. It's a lie. There is a government censorship in Russia named Goskomnadzor, or Government Oversight Committee, which actually monitors the Russian press and persecutes those journalists that criticize bloggers that criticize Russian government. I must say that unfortunately freedom of speech is limited in Russia because there is something like information law in Russia, dated 1993, that law that Russian Duma designed to prohibit any criticism of Russian government. And any Russian journalist who would criticize the Russian government will be shut down after 3 warnings on part of Russian Ministry of Information. This is actually outrageous, and I believe that Russian public should do something about in order to restore freedom of speech. And there's also there is a ban on explicit ban on criticism of the Russian president and his personality, and then this is outrageous because any journalist and blogger that criticize Russian president personally is subject to persecution and then subject to arrest on part of the Russian federal state agency, FSB. This is outrageous. And then even when I used to place critical video blogs on YouTube, they even sent me a warning not to publish any more videos, stuff like that, and then Russian spies actually sent, they actually spied me where I fix my vehicle, and then they actually set me away, and then one Russian guy, actually not Russian, but Armenian guy who was older than 55, and he told me that for former Soviet Army officer, and then he will show me how to criticize his president. And he ordered Armenian mechanic in the Armenian language to break down break down my vehicle, and I was fixing it, and that mechanic, who was older than 55 as well, he took my car's computer block and threw it against the ground. After that, my car was started swerving on the freeway, and I crashed, and lost my vehicle. And then I was lucky to survive that catastrophe about 7 years ago or something. And then I say that Russian President Putin, he used to send his special forces in order to attack Maverick News Agency NTV, owned by businessman Gustinsky, and actually they took over that news agency because the news agency actually criticized Russian government and President Putin, and then President Putin decided to persecute those journalists, and he sent troopers, to take over that state NTV, and he managed to kick out that businessman Gustinsky out of the country, and managed to take away his business, confiscated his business. And then Russian President Putin, they say, we used to receive $20 million worth of a steamship Olympia as a present from his oil tycoon Deripaska. And then this a steamship, 6-stateroom steamship, it cost $20 million, and then he received extremely expensive gifts like that from oil tycoon Deripaska, and then it was outrageous. And then Russian President Putin did not gave up his gift to government. He could feed lots of hungry Russian people, where 19 million Russians lived below poverty line, and then and any attempts of actually niveling their wages up to 30,000 Russian rubles, $400. Those failed because actually Russian minimum wage is about 7,600 rubles or $152 US dollars, and then they say that's actually outrageous. It's practically once I remember a long time ago, 10 years ago, Russian President Putin called Russian workers cheap shots, and claimed that if any investor would exploit them for cheap, and then he actually made sure that minimum wage in Russia remains practically as close to zero as possible, and then this is outrageous, and I believe that Russian President Putin is personally responsible, along with his Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev from United Russian Party, pro-capitalist nationalist party, for the impoverished plight of 90 million Russian workers. And then with actually no immigrants from Africa or Arab countries wants to come to Russia, because Russia don't have any decent wages, and wages are very low, and then actually come to the situation of that West European sanctions against Russia. I believe that officially the Western European sanctions against Russia exist, as West Europeans cannot trade with Russia. Actually, the Russian counter sanctions too, so that prohibits any kind of imports of West European food, to Russian markets. And then I believe it's a state of Cold War, and it's a result of President Putin policies. It's actually about 79,000 Russian workers were denied wages, according to Izvestia.ru, and I believe that once me myself, I'm actually U.S. citizen, naturalized U.S. citizen, an immigrant from Moscow, Russia, and then I used to not to be paid any worker salary myself in Russia, back in Russia in the 90s, but we will say that nowadays situation many better, much better than in the 90s. We are on. There's still lots of terrorists and criminal groups like Orekhovskaya crime group, that executes lawyers with gunshots into their cars, and well, actually, there is a number of criminal groups that killed critic of Russian President Putin, Nemtsov. Nemtsov only wrote a report that criticized Vladimir Putin openly, and then he actually got shot by some Islamic extremists, but he didn't say anything about Islam or anything like that. So I don't understand who would actually benefit his death. And then in the second, that he was critical of Vladimir Putin, and then Putin, he's popular in Russia and he's likely to get re-elected, of course. And but in the second, he actually doesn't improve the situation of human rights and freedom of speech in Russia. And then because hundreds of Chechen gays were arrested and murdered in Chechnya, where their existence was denied, and where President of Chechnya, Kadyrov, Islamic extremist, told that he'd rather not see any homosexual in Chechnya, and once away will be taken care of, and then it's outrageous. Well, actually, that's the situation with human rights in Russia, and then gay parades are banned in Russia, and there is Russian legislation that bans gay propaganda for teenagers and children. Somehow, the gay propaganda, I believe, shouldn't be banned, because it's not a crime to be gay, and sexual minorities have as well right to existence, and their gender should be criminalized, like it's been done before. When the Soviet Union, during Soviet Union times, Russian communists actually managed to prosecute homosexuals and place them in the Russian penitentiary for 2 years, according to Russian Penal Code. And then that was the situation. But now maybe they don't prosecute gay people anymore. But situation in Chechnya makes me think that under President Putin, maybe the human rights are jeopardized as gay people being arrested and even executed by Chechen government, and this is outrageous stuff. And then Russian should be aware of that human rights that freedom of speech in Russia has been violated by Russian information law and Russian law that bans criticism of Russian government, and then by news edition, and bans criticism of Russian president as his personality by journalists and bloggers. And this is outrageous, and then they actually do violate human rights. And then further, I want to talk at Russian political talk show called Title Show of Время Пока. I'm actually used to be a fan of that show, but they actually sometimes send Russian spies and nationalists to actually to input reactionary agenda, such as they called it Ukrainian and Russian were one people, but it's nonsense. Ukrainian and Russian can be one people. And then there's two different people as well. They had two different languages. There was no dialect of Russian language is Ukrainian language. Ukrainian language is not a dialect of Russian language. It's independent and very peculiar, language, national language of Ukraine, and it is, nowadays the situation with Ukrainians is that Ukrainians are committed to passing lots of anti-Russian legislation, and then they actually cut off water to Crimea, said, and they made those Hitler's Bandera, Stepan Bandera, and leader of a Russian nationalist movement in the 40s. His name made his name, name of the streets, and then Shushkevich, that Hitler, who served, who pleaded allegiance to Adolf Hitler, and that led organization of Ukrainian nationalists to commit atrocities against Jews and Poles, and they actually were used to by Hitler troops, by SS troops. Well, actually, this is outrageous, of course. And then that ban of a Communist Party is outrageous, and then right-wing extremist groups like Right-wing Front or something, it's Ukrainian right-wing front, led by nationalist Yarosh, is actually poses a danger to the national security of Ukraine. And then, of course, Ukraine radio is controlled by right-wing extremists who actually banned any communications with Russia, any flights to Russia, banned Russian banks in Ukraine, and then Russian music and Russian motion pictures were banned in Ukraine. It's all negative consequences of Ukraine going nationalist, and then actually I believe that of course Russia has right to reunite with Crimea. There was legal referendum at which the majority of Crimeans, Crimea residents, voted for reunification with Russia, and then well, after that the Russian government occupied Crimea, but they did it legally according to the norms of international law, and there was no international organization, international court that passed a judgment against Russia. And I believe it was sanctions of that West European nations and the same sanctions of United States over Crimea are actually, unfortunately, they actually reactionary measures, because they actually bring cooperation with Russia and business with Russia, and then they actually cause Russia to use countermeasures to ban West European and American food exports into Russia, and then that actually doesn't contribute to improving international relations between America and West Europe and Russia. And I believe that actually this European Americans should actually lift sanctions and recognize that Russia had the legal right to reunite with Crimea, and but actually it wasn't an act of armed aggression, but it was an act of unification with Crimea, because Crimea had voted to join Russia in a legal referendum, and then with I think that actually both sanctions should be lifted. American with European sanctions as well should be lifted. I believe that. And then, but when both Russian journalists, Kremlin's highlighting Mr. Artem Sheinin, former Afghan veteran, Afghan war veteran, mentioned that Soviet Union wasn't such evil, but Soviet Union, of course, it was a less evil than Hitler's job. Of course, Soviet Union was an ally of United States and Great Britain, and of course, Soviet Union didn't do anything, didn't kill any Jews, but Soviet Union was a communist dictatorship, and that communist dictatorship had a serious problem. They banned freedom of speech. They banned any criticism of Communist Party, and whoever was criticizing Russian government or Russian Communist Party or its leader Stalin was actually sentenced to Gulag or prison. Was sent to prison, Gulag and stuff like that. And actually, my great grandfather, Mr. Sergo Atanasyan, he was former member of Armenian Armenian nationalist movement, former Russian artillery officer who participated in the battle of Russian forces against Turkish forces in Hyderabad in 1915, was executed and sentenced to death and executed by Bolshevik regime for his former Tsarist past, for his being a military artillery officer for Russian Tsar, and then in the past, and then he used to be a mathematics professor in Armenia, but in the 30s. But when we found out that Bolsheviks found out that my grandfather had a Tsarist past of a Tsarist military officer, they actually sentenced him to death. And I believe, what kind of regime was it that executed anyone who was white guards, and everybody who actually criticized the regime went to jail, and anybody who would try to sell anything free market was sentenced to prison time too by the Stalin regime. And the Stalin purchase of 1937 even managed to execute some of most highly decorated Russian military officers, including Tukhachevsky, Blecher, and Frunze. And then actually the Soviet regime continued to persecute the dissidents, to jail homosexuals, and limit freedom of speech. There was no freedom of speech, and whoever tried to criticize Russian government or its party leaders, for instance, was sentenced to prison time by KGB. So that actually, yeah, and but average wages in the Soviet Union were very low, about $200 a month, and then those food shortages, deaths of food products, and then it was totalitarian dictatorship. It was only run by oppressive Russian communist regime. In Novocherkassk, communist regime managed to execute even Russian workers' demonstration that were not happy with life and work conditions and their pay. Actually managed to channel their discontent for a demonstration in the 60s, but Khrushchev regime ordered to soldiers to open fire into unarmed demonstrators and kill them. Any attempts, let's say, of Hungary or Czechoslovakia, to become independent democracy was suppressed by Russian invasion. They actually brought in their tanks and stopped and executed the rebels, and it was rather awful. I mean, we can say that Soviet dictatorship was as much evil as Nazi Germany, but still there was some evil, and had serious problem with human rights, and was very impoverished, and plight of Russian workers, making about $200 a month or less, and making way less, like $85 dollar equivalent, US dollar equivalent a month. I was working there as a teenager at a factory, as a locksmith, and then I still believe that Russia didn't draw much from its communist past, as still there exist laws passed by Russian Duma 20 years ago, and now that are in force, like Russian Information Law 1993, and the Russian law that bans homosexual propaganda, Russian law that bans criticism of Russian president, his personality, that bans gay parade. That's all laws that violate human rights, and actually so far no attempts to repeal those laws were made in Russia. But I hope in the future, actually, maybe situation of human rights maybe improve in Russia. I hope so, that Russia become more progressive. But right now, the way Russians do it, they send spies, to actually to hack the websites of Democratic Party of USA, US Democratic Party, and then hacking they did, and then it was involvement in elections, by doing the hacking of the Democratic Party in order to make Republicans win. Actually, that's whenever Republican president candidate didn't give Russians much. In terms, he never, President Trump never wanted to admit it, that actually Crimea reunited with Russia, and there wasn't any Russian aggression against Ukraine, but instead he actually supported sanctions and said that it was still too early to talk about lifting sanctions of Russia. And then I believe that he ordered a hit, cruise missile attack against Syrian government position, which might actually bring the world to the brink of World War III in Syria, as Russian government has bases there, and then military operation against Al-Qaeda and terrorist groups, and an attempt to bombard Syrian positions, so Syrian military under false pretext is actually an attempt at World War III, because Russia promised next time that U.S. will bombard Syrian positions, we will respond with military ground-air missiles, or ground missiles. But I believe that, so President Trump is a president of war, not president of peace. He unfortunately want to cut, social spending $1.6 trillion, want to cut Medicaid, and want to cut taxes for wealthy, not for middle class, as most of American press American journalists say. And then actually he wants to get rid of Obamacare, but there are only subsidies for poor in Obamacare, about $200 a month. But it was subsidized poor workers, and then the workers paid only $60 a month installment for that healthcare insurance. And then Obamacare was not a devil or anything, but it was a system of government subsidies, and I understood that. Unfortunately, it was flawed, but as anybody who had a dependent, like children, if you have children, something like that, you want to include them on your insurance, and the price of insurance installment went up to $400 a month, which was outrageous. Actually, for workers wouldn't be able to pay, mostly low-income workers won't be able to pay that kind of money. Higher-paid workers wouldn't be able to do it. Way too expensive. But individual subsidies of the amount of $200 a month, which actually help poor workers to pay only $60 a month. It's monthly installments for health insurance. And then, but actually, at that time, insurance was paid for medication, paid for doctors, was up to $157 a month, actually. It was rather expensive, but anyway, I believe that Obamacare should be kept and then maybe reformed. But actually, Republican offered American Care Act. It actually was because it cut taxes for wealthy, cut Medicaid, and cut government subsidies to low-income Americans. It does everything to knock out government subsidies for workers, and then, I don't know, Republicans maybe are social conservatives, they want to cut the spending, but they actually, hopefully we won't prevail, and Democrats manage to be down any attempts to stop attempts to dismantle Obamacare. Well,